Wanima Tapinwami, Koe Kwasin, Natasuis, Jennifer, Weshkawanisi Rawlings, Ka Napakanaket, Sikon Kwampanoag. My name is Jennifer Rawlings, and I am the co-director of the Center for Indigenous Peoples' Rights. And on behalf of the CIPR, my co-director, the attorney, Dr. Taino Palermo, and our executive director, attorney Raymond Two Hawks Watson, we welcome you into this space and thank you all for joining us here at our second annual gathering on Indigenous law and policy. First and foremost, we want to thank the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation for welcoming us into their space and allowing us to gather on their lands in the beautiful Mashantucket, Connecticut. My son and we came in last night, and it was really nice to wake up amongst these trees, and it's always a pleasure to be on these homelands. We at the CIPR have had a very productive year and a half since our first annual gathering back in October 2023, when we gathered in Providence at the Roger Williams campus. We are thrilled to be meeting here in Mashantucket, Connecticut today as we kick off a weekend in collaboration with Turn Up NE, who are bringing Providence and tribal youth here tomorrow and Sunday to engage in workshops in a wide array of areas, from exploration of pathways to the legal profession, to finance, STEAM, health, and personal and professional development. This year is very special for Turn Up because they're celebrating their 10th anniversary of their Youth Empowerment Leadership Summit and Career Exploration Conference. Thank you to Turn Up for partnering with us this year. You all will have opportunities to mingle with the youth at breakfast and lunch tomorrow and Sunday. We also want to thank our sponsors, the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation, the Muse Foundation of Rhode Island, the American Arbitration Association, Roger Williams School of Law, the Rhode Island Foundation, the United Way of Rhode Island, and last but certainly not least, Wonder Nation. Katapatanamu for all of you for being here, whether you're joining us here in person or live on our live stream. We're so grateful for your presence. We want to thank our panelists and presenters in advance. We have guests from near and far, and we have some very special guests who have joined us all the way from Hawaii. So it's a really special time. We're looking forward to a weekend of fellowship, sharing, learning, and we're also grateful to all of you for showing up. We are members of this community, we love this community, and we're working for this community. I will now pass it off to our Executive Director, Attorney Raymond Two Hawks Watson, to deliver the Director's address.
Justice a bit, I'm a little bit taller than Jen. Wigwusin na tawamag kanitampag, askata squamson, no tuis nisu wishawanag, no wuchi nanhignak, ka wini mosquito, ka aquani. Good day, family and friends. How are you all doing? I am Raymond Two Hawks Watson from the Narragansett Nation, and good medicine and peace be unto you all. And I just want to echo Jen's remarks and say, Katapatush, thank you very much for being here at our 2025 annual gathering on law and policy related to Indigenous communities, tribes, and individuals. As I was thinking about the initial remarks that I wanted to share this morning with you all, the theme that came to mind, and I think it really is the underpinning of what the center is all about, is meeting the need. Meeting the need. And I say that because the center really came about by the doctor and I realizing that there was a need that needed to be met and making the conscientious decision to be the ones to meet that need. I don't want to go too far back, but it really started around us supporting the Pequot in their efforts to repatriate their lands from Brown University, which you'll be hearing more about if you stick with us till Sunday. But after all of the marching and protesting and media blitzes and all of that, and I come from a background in social justice and community activism, we got to a space where the lawyers got involved. And for those of us who are lawyers, you know that that's a whole different world. And for anyone who's dealt with lawyers, I'm sure you know that that's a whole different world. And it was a space that Dr. Palermo and I didn't really know anything about. So there wasn't much we could do because we didn't know anything about it, but there was a need. So we looked around and we ran into a couple of issues. We didn't see any other Indigenous folks around who had the knowledge or skills to reach out to. Lawyers that were around that we knew and we reached out to, they didn't have the knowledge or skills in this specific area of law. This was mind-blowing to me because, oh, wait a minute. There are particular areas of law that people specialize in, so that was eye-opening to me. And then for those who might be interested, of course, they wanted their $5,000, $10,000 retainer up front. So all of that kind of put us in a space to say, well, there's a need here, but we can't find anyone to meet it. So Dr. Palermo, in conversation one day, said, we just have to go to law school so we can address this need that's here. So in 2019, for myself, at the age of 39 years old, after being professional in a number of arenas, we decided that we were going to start another career path on the journey to being attorneys. Because of the good doctors' relationships at Roger Williams University School of Law, we were able to find ourselves as first year 1Ls in 2019. But this theme of meeting the need was still prevalent when we got to law school. We got there and we found that there weren't many resources for quote unquote Indians at the law school. One of the first things we noticed is that there were a lot of student groups, but there was nothing for natives. So we had some conversation with our now current board chair for the center, Dr. David Logan, and let him know that we felt that there was a need for an American Indian Law Students Association, and he helped us meet that need. So we created ALSA, and there will be representatives from ALSA that are here this weekend. Still going strong, very active, doing great work at the law school right now. We then wanted to take classes at the law school in federal Indian law, but they didn't offer any. And it just so happens that one of our current board members, Dr. James Diamond, reached out to the law school, to one of the deans there, and asked if there was a need for a federal Indian law professor. And the dean told him, well, I don't know. I don't really know if there will be that much interest. I know we've got 2 students there that are interested, but I don't know if there'll be anyone besides that. But yeah, we'll list it and we'll see what happens. So I think somehow we got in touch with Dr. Diamond, and he told us, well, if you want this class to be there, then I need to have students fill the class. So Dr. Palermo and I said, okay, well, if we need students to fill the class, we'll go ahead and meet that need. And all of a sudden we had a full class of federal Indian law, which then turned into a full class of tribal courts and constitutions, which has just continued to be full since we started it. So once again, meeting the need, and I'll be bold enough to say, I think that through those efforts of just trying to meet the needs, Roger Williams University School of Law, in my opinion, has one of the most robust federal Indian law programs, definitely in the Northeast, but I would dare to say east of the Mississippi. But how does that come about? By people seeing a need and meeting it. So then it comes time for graduation, and we come out and we're really excited now because we've got all of this knowledge, and we took our classes in federal Indian law, and we know professors, and now we're lawyers now. But we also realized that this need still was facing these challenges, because if we went and just joined a law firm, well, they're still going to want their retainer up front, right? They're going to want their hourly rate. And there would still be a need in the communities that we were looking to service that couldn't be met because of just how the legal system is structured. So Dr. Palermo said to me, we need to start our own center where we can provide the resources and supports that our community needs on our terms. And those terms specifically are pro bono, or the phrase that Dr. Palermo has coined, low bono services. So once again, creating this Center for Indigenous Peoples' Rights because there was a need that needed to be met, and we looked around and we saw that no one was meeting it, so we decided to step up to the plate and meet it. And I can tell you, when we opened the door to the center, we quickly realized that it wasn't a door, it was a floodgate that we had opened. because all of these people started reaching out from all different tribal communities. And it was very encouraging because I think for those of us who are engaged in the politics of it, sometimes it can be very disheartening that there's all of this, it seems to be infighting going on. But what we found was that the center could be like a neutral third party, because when you need legal assistance, you need legal assistance. So folks were reaching out, and we quickly realized that we had a need for more expertise. So I reached out to Attorney Rawlings, and I was first of all nervous, because I was like, well, how am I going to sell her on this, because we don't really have the money to pay, and I know she's a really good attorney in Connecticut. And before I could even get through the full sales pitch, she was like, I'm with it. I get it. I understand it. This is exactly what I want to do. Once again, there's a need there, and she met it. So that's where we stand now with the Center for Indigenous Peoples' Rights. It's an organization that we've put together to meet the needs of a community because no one else was meeting them. Or if they were willing to meet them, they weren't willing to meet them where our population needed to be met at. And if we didn't do something about it, it didn't seem like anything was going to be done about it. And that's kind of the path that we've been traveling on. And I think that this weekend, as Dr. Palermo goes through his next year in review, and as you listen to the different folks on the different panels and things of that nature, you're going to get a much more profound understanding of what the need is out there for Indigenous folks, not just locally, not just nationally, but internationally, because we've started to engage in places, Puerto Rico, Maui, all over the place. And we're finding that folks are facing similar issues wherever they're at, trying to get their needs met from a legal perspective. So there's two things that I want to ask that you all keep in mind and take with you as you go through this weekend and as you move forward from it. First of all, to spread the word about the work that the center's doing, because we are and are being a tremendous resource, but we can't be a resource if people don't know about us and don't reach out for assistance. If you don't know about us, then we don't know about you. And if you don't reach out to us, then we can't provide support to you. So please, if you're aware of Indigenous folks that are out there, and we run the gamut from creating trust to doing copyrights to helping grandmothers get visitation rights with their children and making sure that the father has to send them to cultural functions with the tribe. We do it all for Indigenous folks, not just for Indigenous folks, but our focus is on Indigenous folks because that's the community that needs it. So spread the awareness about the center. Let your colleagues and your networks know that we're here and that we are a resource and a support and that they should reach out to us. Don't feel like there's no options for them out there. Reach out. And then the second one, and this is, what I have to do because I'm ED, the center has needs as well. We, once again, do this work pro bono or low bono, and all of us are doing this on a part-time basis, which means we're working at law firms or we're working with consultancies and things of that nature. But there's a need for resources and supports for the center itself. Because with all of the tremendous work that we're doing right now, we can only do what we have the capacity to do. But if there's more funding, if there's more resources, if there's more attorneys out there that say, hey, I can dedicate some pro bono hours to helping a client, it helps us to be more of a resource and a support and an impact to the communities that we're focusing on. So please, think about how you can help to meet the needs of the center and then meet it in whatever form or fashion that is, in whatever capacity you can do it. If you've got some deep pockets, dig down deep in them and throw some money our way, and we'll put it to good use. But please, from this weekend, as you listen to all of the folks that are speaking, as you think about what the needs are in your own community, and as hopefully you reach out to the center for assistance or reach out to the center to see how you can be of assistance, make sure you take the time to meet the need. It's so important. There's so much going on in U.S. politics right now, and I think that it's becoming even more prevalent that if we don't meet needs, then they'll definitely go unmet. As a matter of fact, there's in my opinion, a very intentional goal of creating more of a need that won't be met in cutting of funding and resources, cutting out programs, all of that. Someone has to step up to the plate to address that. And if not you, then who? And if you don't do it, not only will it not get met, but how much worse might the situation become by your lack of engagement. So, Katapatushwuche Chusuta, thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much for being here. To all of our guests that have flown in from all over the world, thank you very much for being here. Once again, thank you to our Mashantucket Pequot family for hosting us. And I hope that you do enjoy this weekend and look forward to connecting with you all soon as we continue the great work of the center.
All right. So, okay. Let's make sure all my toys work here. All right. So, my name is Taino Palermo. I'm named after my people. It's intentional. My parents were very intentional in doing that. My two sisters, Juanina and Angel Saray, are also named that way. We are Puerto Rican. We are New Yorican, but we're also Taino. And so we carry these identities with us. And so, I kind of grew up carrying two truths, reading about my people being erased, and then coming home to my people, talking the language, holding ceremony, living the culture. So I was always kind of confused until I grew older and started engaging with folks who have been in and around indigenous communities and trying to make it make sense. And luckily, I had elders that helped us be very steadfast in holding on to our identity. And so there's no coincidence that we ended up, Two Hawks and I'm originally from New York City by way of Puerto Rico, Borinquen, Guanilla specifically, which you know today as Ponce. And we collided at a time where the creator was like, we need y'all to link up and go do something. And so we did. And, I just wanted to kind of ground everybody since our last annual gathering in 2023. No, it's not. We know how to count years. But the annual gathering that happens, that has culminated to this weekend, was a little over a year and a half-ish in the making. And so I intentionally presented it this way because this work, these communities, you don't just come in here and tell them what you're going to do or how you're going to do it, because people don't come into our community and tell us what we're going to do. And so you earn trust and you have to understand the lay of the land. The Hawaii family that's here, we took a year, almost about a year and a half, to literally Zoom meet everyone we could to know we're in your backyard. We do this work. We can lead this work or we can support you from behind. But, we're not going to just come in here and represent these folks while people have been fighting this fight. We just got here. And so we don't want people stepping into our backyard that way. And so we took our time and did our due diligence. And we're also not licensed in Hawaii. So we retained an attorney there who will be here this weekend. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. You're going to hear a lot about that this weekend. And we have a reception this evening that I'm going to plug. It'll be in this space just for folks, because folks are trickling in from all over throughout the day today. So if you really want to have a nice kind of intimate networking time later this evening, will be that. And we'll have pretty much all of our presenters here. But it's going to be a jam-packed weekend. Enjoy the silence, because we have 150-ish tribal youth coming for a simultaneous conference that we did intentionally. We are the practitioners. They are the practitioners in training. They are the pathway to being here so that it's not just me, Ray, and Jen. We need more attorneys. We need more policy people. We need more public officials who have indigenous interests in mind. not necessarily indigenous themselves. You don't have to be from where I'm from to be able to help my community, but you do need to know my community. And so we are intentionally creating a space where these young people will be indoctrinated in a good way to approach the practitioners, to approach people. They have little business cards, they got pens and pads to report back, and they get all kinds of little incentives. They're raffling off e-bikes, giving them cash, doing all kinds of stuff to let them know there's people that look like you in these spaces. We can demystify the process to get there. And now you got a plug, because everybody needs a plug, right? We all need to connect. And so, so it's going to be a very fun weekend. So before we do that, let's kind of just recap where we've been. I wanted to just give some visuals and context to everything Ray kind of casually glossed over intentionally, because we're going to get deeper into it. But this is since our last annual gathering. So if you wanted to know what we did until we had our first annual gathering, all those sessions were recorded and on our website. So you can see those at any time. But if you were there, as some of you were, that was our 2023 panel. Our last annual gathering, we kicked it off at the federal courthouse, if you remember. Our Chief Judge McConnell of the Federal District Court of Rhode Island, who you will see a little bit later, who we had a matter in front of and set what we like to think of as history in legal indigenous law here in the First Circuit, which is the New England region. We kicked it off at the federal courthouse. We did a couple site visits, and the rest of the weekend was at the Providence campus, Roger Williams Law School, as Jen mentioned. And so that was our first kind of coming out, like, hey, we're here. We've been here a year. This is who we are, what we do. What you'll see in the rest of this is kind of what has come from that. And we hope from this weekend, we can elevate even further. So, we've strengthened some of our partnerships. Jen went to a Pre-Law Summer Institute Mentors Conference. We have the Pre-Law Summer Institute here doing a presentation for us and for the youth side this weekend. Is led by Rodina Cave Parnell, who we built a relationship. For those who don't know, the PLSI is the Pre-Law Summer Institute. That's all expenses paid for Native students going into law school. The summer you go into law school, it's kind of like a bridge prep program. However, if you're not federally recognized, then it's not covered because that money comes from the Bureau of Indian Education. So if you're state recognized, or just if your state doesn't have state recognition, then there's a gap. And so we committed to 2 students every year to close that gap. Rodina said, if you can get them here, we can take it. We can take care of it. So this is another, plug, as Ray said, to share the word. I mean, all of our clients, everything you see that we're going to talk about this weekend, when they ask us, what can we do because we can't write a check, it's like, tell somebody. You know somebody who knows somebody who's got a big checkbook. Just spread the word. Because as soon as that happens, they're going to come back around, and then we're going to be at our 2026 annual gathering with an even crazier presentation, and then we'll leave fully funded. What you don't realize is that Jen, Ray, and I all have full-time jobs. So what you see here this entire weekend is above and beyond our full-time jobs, okay? And there's kids, there's families, there's external commitments, and what you are seeing here is not our full-time jobs, okay? So I'm putting that all into context. Imagine if all 3 of our powers could be unleashed just in this work, okay? PLSI was one of our proud, partners. And then, as I mentioned, over the last year and a half, we have been meeting with the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation Council and developing a relationship. We've come here several times. We've hosted them in Rhode Island several times. There's a lot of shared family between them, our Narragansetts and Rhode Islanders, Wampanoags. There's a lot of connections in this area. And so we wanted to let them know that, we're here and we're here to help. What people don't realize is that although, the gaming tribes may have money, or just federally recognized tribes may have compensation in some way, the legal counsel for a tribe is representing the interest of the tribe, not individual tribal members' personal matters. That may not necessarily impact the tribe, and therefore that's on you. And so that's where we come in. Whether you're federally recognized, state recognized, or otherwise, you need representation. And so the Mashantucket Pequot were like, "Oh wow, thank you for saying that, because we do have a lot of members that have needs, and just we can't address them all." And then they're like, "Why couldn't you?" And you don't necessarily know all those nuances, but we do. And so we have a couple clients now from the tribe, and so we're super excited to be working with them in that way. And one of their entities, Wonder Nation, a big gaming tech STEM entity, who gave us a substantial sponsorship for this conference and sponsored the entire youth side, is going to be here this weekend doing all types of coding, engineering stuff. They're bringing in equipment and stuff. It's going to be really interesting. The Center for Mediation, they asked me to speak at their board meeting because I teach tribal courts, which of course entails peacemaking and other kind of indigenous conflict resolution systems. And mediation is a form of restorative justice. And so, it's not a foreign concept to folks in the mediation world. And so we formed a part. I presented at their board meeting, and then they asked me to be on the board. And I was like, no, Ray could be on the board. And so Ray's on the board. And so we built that connection. And now they're going to be here this weekend as well, talking about mediation, as well as the American Association of Arbitration, talking about arbitration as a way of conflict resolution in your dealings. And One Square World, who is also doing a presentation this weekend, is the New England Northeast Regional eco funding, eco support, environmental justice agency. And so they actually are the ones who are helping indigenous groups in particular apply for environmental justice funding that hasn't been cut, and it's already allocated to the entities. So it's not at any in any jeopardy of being cut from the federal government. So we spent time cultivating these relationships, and it was important. We added 2 new board members. Juan Wilson Jr., who is a founder of the Muse Foundation. Juan has Narragansett family and Pequot family. He's actually how we ended up here. One of his cousins is on the council. And then Sonia Thomas, who is Narragansett, works for College Unbound, was actually my former student because I teach at College Unbound as well. And Sonia is amazing. She'll be here this weekend as well. We're super excited to add them to our board. And then we hit the road. We hit the powwow circuit, we hit the info tables, and that's how we get our word out. Is you've probably seen us, and we make pretty much most of our connections in that way. I mean, it's really our community, those we serve. We are a kind of people-to-people person. It's really hard to vibe virtually. I mean, our Maui family, who we've been seeing in a Zoom screen over the last year-ish, we're all hugs as soon as we saw the full bodies. And so, the face-to-face is really how we're able to kind of build our connections. And in doing that, we have to do, the promotional stuff, and we have to kind of do this stuff. And so, this isn't encapsulated at all, really, the extent of the things we've had to do or did in terms of radio shows and things like that to get the word out. And then we spent some time and are continuing to do nation building work with the Manasean tribe, who are native to Block Island. That's us at their annual powwow. Pour Us, their annual powwow is on Block Island during the summer. But we serve as general counsel for the Manasean tribe, and so we help facilitate their powwow and annual meeting. And what you see there on the left was actually a beautiful sight. The picture doesn't do it any justice, but it's like probably an 8-foot long piece of paper that had all the family lines, and everyone was filling in who they were in the line. The Manasean tribe are reestablishing their constitution and have received and worked closely with the city of New Shoreham. They are recognized through Senate and House resolutions because the state of Rhode Island doesn't have a state recognition process. They are part of a tax exemption statute that holds that any property they hold in real or tangible property is exempt from taxation, and that's because they formed a nonprofit corporation. And so when they're not federally recognized and there's no state recognition system, we help them kind of finesse it in a way so that they're treated equally nonetheless. And so we have hosted, now going on our second year of Alternative Spring Break, where we host law students who do work on Indigenous law and policy. And so that was our first bunch there. And to the right is us at the Tamaquag Museum, no, the Tamaquag fundraiser. And so, you know, we work very closely with law students. Right now, we have one who will be here this weekend working with our Maui family from Yale Law. We have 3 right now from Roger Williams School of Law, and we had 2 from UConn Law not too long ago. And so if you have and we also have hosted undergraduate students as well. And so if you know anyone who wants exposure into this field, even if you have a sharp high schooler, let us know. And, you know, this is more of our team here and our interns. And then the last to join the Esquire group, Ray Two Hawks, I had the honor and pleasure of making the motion in front of the Supreme Court to admit him to the Rhode Island bar. And so it was a kind of crazy full circle moment for me. But that's how we were able to kind of create our tripart team of attorneys here. And so we've had some victories. As you've mentioned, we were general counsel to the Poconokeets during their land back exchange with Brown University, which resulted in 255 acres with 2 miles of coastline, which holds the seat of Petumtuck, the seat of the Massasoit, excuse me, they refer to it as Petumtuck. And that land comes with restricted covenants so that they can never be developed on. It has to be maintained and stewarded in the traditional ways. And so now they're landowners. And so they're going to be featured this weekend on a panel called Land Back, Now What? Now you got the land. So now what happens? And boy, have we learned a lot just as the attorneys, because, you know, we're talking about environmental law, coastal resources management. There used to be a military base there. We're talking about soil contamination, and we don't know any of that stuff. But we know people who do, fortunately. One of the things Ray mentioned is, oh no, he didn't mention this yet, but also relative was I mentioned it, this groundbreaking for us in this circuit. So in the federal court system, the entire country, entire U.S. is broken up into circuits, and then you have your district courts at the city levels. The circuits are the last stop before you go to the Supreme Court. So circuit law is the law for your area. We're in the First Circuit. In the First Circuit, there has never been applied in this way what's referred to as a Rule 19 motion to dismiss for a tribe, because tribes are inherently sovereign. And if you're inherently sovereign, you're immune from civil suit unless you waive that sovereignty. And so this is federal law, federal common law. This is what it is. And so there is case law that says, and I'll talk a little bit about this in the next segment, but just giving you a little teaser. There's case law that says there are federal common law standards of what constitutes a tribe. And that's because before 1978, when the Office of Acknowledgement was established, the law had these common law standards before there was a formal federal law about it, of what constituted a tribe. Those standards are effectively what became the petitioning process checklist that you have to check off to petition for federal acknowledgement. But those common law standards still hold. So we had a tribal member who had a piece of land that was connected to a broader piece of land that the tribe already claimed and had an Aboriginal land claim to. The tribe's not federally recognized. And so, but they are who they are. People know who they are. They're held out as a tribe. They're recognized as continuity, all these things. We made these arguments, proved all these standards, and they said, the court said, you're right. The intervener defendant, which is the tribe intervened in the matter because they have an interest. And when the tribe jumped in and said, whoa, we have an interest and we never waived our sovereignty, it has to be dismissed even if the other party doesn't have a remedy. Now, this is standard in the Ninth Circuit. Where's the Ninth Circuit? Out west, Colorado, Midwest, where all the kind of big tribal Indian law happens. Now, I did a judicial clerkship externship when I was in law school for the former federal chief judge, Will Smith. And I know how they think, because I was in the chambers with them. And they know, I know that they treat anything that's new in their circuit, we got to look to our sister circuit. And who's the sister circuit? The Ninth Circuit. And what do they say? Hey, if a tribe's got an interest and they didn't waive their jurisdiction, this matter's got to go. And it doesn't matter if there's any other remedy. And so we were the first to test this out here in the First Circuit. And our motion to dismiss was granted with prejudice, which means they can't ever bring it back. As a matter of fact, they even tried and the court killed it right away. What Ray did mention was that we, one thing I tell my students in federal Indian law is that federal Indian law is like your base layer. Very rarely are you dealing with something that is just narrowly focused to the world of federal Indian law. Typically, you're dealing with an Indian who has Indian rights protected under federal Indian law, but is in some sort of situation like a contract issue or a family issue, domestic issue. So remember I said, the tribe, a federally recognized tribe's attorney is representing the interests of the tribe, not the members. So a family member from a Narragansett Indian tribe had reached out because one of their members, grandma, had custody of the grandkids and was going to lose them to the non-Indian father. And, grandparents' rights, I've come to learn because I had to crash course in family law. Grandparents' rights are very, very rare. Very rare. Only a handful of states actually have laws that give grandparents more rights. So the grandparents, I had to put on the stand and tell them these aren't regular grandma and grandpa they're going to go see, and go to a movie. These are elders who are passing on traditional cultural knowledge. I put grandpa on the stand and he brought everybody to tears because he's talking about how he's the only one who shows him where the hidden places are in the reservation and how the traditional ways of way we do things. He comes with us for the summers, blah, blah, blah. And so the family court judge, at our request and our insistence, added to the order, because guardianship is just really a temporary situation so parents can get their stuff together. And so when parents get their stuff together, parents' rights are parents' rights. So the kids come back. But these aren't regular grandparents. And so what the judge did was add to the order that non-Indian dad has to, as well as regular holidays, include the children on recognized holidays for the children regarding their Narragansett tribal heritage. What that means is that if for some reason there is a Narragansett tribal heritage cultural event, powwow, ceremony, ritual that they are being prevented from, we have a legal hook to bring dad back into court and reopen this conversation around guardianship. And so this is a victory as much as simple as it may seem. This is a very big deal, especially in family court. As we mentioned, we did a little reorg and got ourselves a new executive director who is pulling his hair out over getting money. So please donate. And from Ray and Ray's vision and this kind of work around creating pathways, we used to call it pipelines, but that is a dirty word. I saw my brother Andy pop up when I said that. But we are developing pathways into this field. And one of them we are excited to announce is the Young Advocates Program, or YAP. And Ray and I, when we were in law school, were the first to teach a curriculum called Street Law at the Rhode Island Training School, which is the state's juvenile detention facility. And they ate it up. And we were like, oh, because you know now how the law works. You see how you can finesse the law. You see people who look like you, who know the law, and now they're gravitating to it. So we thought, oh, we could really, amplify this. So the United Way gave us a good chunk of money for a couple of years to launch this program. And so we are now probably in the 4th or 5th session of a 12-month session, a 12-month program. And we're going to also Ray's going to pilot some of that program during this weekend with the youth conference. And so check out our website. If you have young people interested in this, we host it on the weekends and a weeknight. And every other week is a guest speaker, somebody in the field. And so as much exposure as we can get as possible. And so let's look at some numbers. Since our last annual gathering, we've billed over 1,250 hours for all of our clients. Now, I say we all have full-time jobs. I work at a private firm. I won't say which one because we charge about $375 an hour. And that's a corporate firm, and we're not even a big corporate firm. We're big, but we're not big. So all this work we've been doing, if people joke you go to law school because you can't do math, but I punched this number in. It's well over 500, 600,000, something like that. So totally out of reach. This is what we're talking about. Now we create our bills. We just don't send them anywhere. And so we have a record of everything we've spent and itemized and kept time on because that's how we raise money, show what we're doing. Since you saw us last time, we've had an additional 42 Indigenous clients, which range from a tribe, which can be hundreds of people as one client, from federally recognized tribes, state recognized. I talked about federal common law, tribal organizations, our Kanaka Maoli family, as well as individuals. So we have really expanded our work. In that time since you saw us last, we created 4 land trusts. One for the Poconoke Management Group, managing the Mashantucket property. One for Caneo Orocovis, which is about 400 acres in Puerto Rico. So we're working with an organization out there and a local attorney. The Mashantucket Narragansett, who are working with the city of Providence and getting access to the Mashantucket Pond, as well as we started our relationship with, thankfully, at an info table. I think it was probably Indigenous Peoples Day in Newton, with the Martha's Vineyard Wampanoag, who have land owned by private people that want to kind of protect it for the broader group in a land trust. And then we formed three corporate entities. We just found out one of our nonprofits we processed just got cleared, which surprised us because I thought the IRS was a mess right now, but they are processing paperwork, thankfully. And we got two LLCs up and running. One does apparel sourcing and manufacturing from like overseas, and the other is a podcast that's going to be kicking off in the next year from a retired NPR journalist. And then, as Ray mentioned, we got into intellectual property. We filed a trademark application. We're preparing for copyright infringement litigation over Indigenous designs. And so that has been a learning curve for us. And then we've had a successful pro se litigant that we've helped from afar. We aren't licensed everywhere, but we are a legal aid resource center. So if we can't represent you, we can do everything we can to demystify public resources to get you what you need to represent yourself. See, in theory, the legal system is supposed to be designed so you can represent yourself. But obviously, the systems and barriers that exist prevent that. So we do everything we can, short of ghostwriting, in helping guide people to represent themselves. Carrie Jones is Sand Hill Lenape. She owns about 40 acres in New Jersey and has had that land in her family. There's an Indian cemetery and a formerly enslaved cemetery on that land, including her own families. And a private cemetery person started encroaching on her land, excavating bodies, and drew into question her title and her ownership. And so thing about Carrie is that she has all her receipts, deeds, everything, documentation, pre the formation of the state of New Jersey. And so we helped her organize all of that to what you see here is a screenshot from a documentary that they shot because she took everyone to trial, put them on the stand, and received title back to her land. And so now she was supposed to be here today to talk a little bit about it, but she's going to arrive tonight because she's preparing. They filed a defamation lawsuit against her, saying that she was lying, saying that that's her land. And so we had them pause that lawsuit until she settled this lawsuit. And now that she won it, now she's going back at him for that defamation for all the smoke. And so Carrie is a superstar. Yeah, she deserves a round of applause. And I will be sure to shout her out when she is here over the weekend. But that's, we don't have to do it. You can do it if you got the will. We can demystify the process for you. And so, that's just something to keep in mind. Now, what you have been seeing is, a little bit of our vintage logo. And one of the things we've been doing here is, and what you'll see throughout the rest of this year, is unveiling a new look. Our prior logo was Ty reaching out to somebody online for $20 to put something together that wasn't like performative or offensive. And, that was a nice little makeshift logo. But we wanted to really embrace who we are and what we're about. There's nobody doing what we do. We are the only full-service legal aid and policy center east of the Mississippi River. And we don't say that proudly. We say that because we are filling a need, and we need more people with us, able to help our people. And so we knew we didn't want to look like, no offense, but we didn't want to like an ACLU or like a legal aid society. We wanted something that reflected us. It didn't necessarily even have to have law in it. It would, because we're carving our own path, so we can't really measure ourselves up against somebody. So we engaged this firm called Stay Silent, and they spent probably 4 or 5 months sitting in our meetings. Some of our clients here were, we had to disclose that they'll be kind of flies on the wall and they were beholden to confidentiality, and they had to see how we engaged our clients, how we navigated these spaces, how we treated people. You know, I showed you those hours before. You know, there's times we can be on a meeting with tribal elders for 2 hours, and we can't bill for that, you know. And so, and even if we did, it would be, you know, and so you can't really measure what we're doing against a traditional legal framework. And so we had to figure out, what did that look like visually? What did it convey? And so, you know, we wanted to keep it serious, but also keep it grounded. And so what you see here is a traditional war club to let you know we are here to fight and fighting for you, and also a peace pipe so that you know that there is an opportunity for resolution and a path forward, irrespective of conflict. But we're ready for either or. And so, and we're always ready to either fight or engage in diplomacy or mediation or peacemaking. And so, this is our new logo, which of course means new swag. And so we'll be, you know, unveiling new swag throughout the year, all part of the merchandise to, you know, support our work. You know, these are all just mechanisms to support our work. We are not in the fashion industry. These are just really good designers. You know, we wanted things that said, you know, we've been here, we're still here, right? We're the ancestors' attorney. We were here long before you got here. And I think what is most important in our kind of theme for what we do, because we don't ask, we do it, we know the law, and then we let them tell us no, is really what hasn't been taken away remains. And that's kind of the major takeaway here. And so, you know, it's important that, you know, we kind of make sure that we have this new, fresh look, and kind of carry our identity a little further. So with that, that's our 1.5-ish review. And I hope it'll be good next time. Okay, so one of the things we wanted to do as well, and establish this practice, is to make it a practice of consistently elevating and broadcasting Indigenous law and policy initiatives happening here in New England and the East Coast. That's why we're here, because we know that there was a need on this side of the water, and there wasn't anyone to support that need. And now that we are here, everything you're seeing here is above and beyond what we've done. But it's important that we lift up and highlight everything that our people are doing. And so with that, one of our alternative spring break students, Krista Wheeler, who's a first-year law student at Roger Williams School of Law, was really intrigued by this work and decided to stay on past spring break, which was last month. And so she has been putting together this survey. And so I'm going to turn it over to her to kick it off, and we're going to kind of tag team these presentations. Two of the features we're going to highlight are going to be added to the live stream screen. So so we're going to see if the tech works out. But I'll pass it off to you, Krista. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so in this survey, one of the first things that I saw in the news was this really significant example of land back. Approximately 31,000 acres of land in the Connedan region, which is in northeastern Maine, was returned to the Penobscot tribe without easement or restriction. Most land returns usually come with some kind of restriction or stipulation on how the land can be used. So Trust for the Public Land, which is a nonprofit in Maine, purchased the land in November 2024 from a Maine timber investor, and the land was purchased with a $32 million loan. After this $32 million loan is paid off, the land will officially be returned. Okay. The significance of this is that it's the largest return of its kind to an indigenous tribe in U.S. history without easement or restriction. As I mentioned, most come with restriction or easement. And this furthers the long-term goals of recreational environmentalism, economic, health, and climate resilience benefits for the Penobscot Nation and Connedan region. And back to you.
So this is the Rule 19 dismissal that I was talking about, and this was in front of Chief Judge McConnell, who opened up our 2023 annual gathering. And for those who don't know Chief Judge McConnell, he's the judge that the Trump administration has been targeting because he put an injunction on all his ICE orders and all those executive orders. And so Chief Judge McConnell is an ally of Indigenous peoples, understands the law, federal Indian law. And so we were fortunate to have this case in front of him. And once we knew that, we were like, oh man, I mean, the law is the law. So we're confident in the law. We know the law. It's really about who's going to interpret it and who we're in front of. Because even judges, have partisan views, and so it doesn't, it matters who you're in front of. So this Rule 19 dismissal was so straightforward in the law. It was issued by what's called a text order, which means the law is the law. I'm not even going to write an opinion. It's literally like a text message of, nah, this isn't happening. So this is what we have to show in the body of an email, as opposed to like an opinion, because there's nothing to opine. The law is the law. The facts align with the law, and there's nothing to dispute here. So this was, that victory that I was referring to. This is the actual law, okay? And what it says is, federally unrecognized tribes that met common law requirements of ethnicity, continuity, leadership, and territoriality established by the Supreme Court case Montoya versus United States have been held to enjoy the same sovereign immunity from suit as that enjoyed by federally recognized tribe. See these two these two federal cases. And a state recognized tribe can sue for trespass against its state reservation, whether or not the tribe succeeds in securing federal recognition. See also federal court case. So the law is the law. I copy and pasted and then said, these are the factors. This is what it is. And that's how we got our motion to dismiss. Next is the recognition of the Taino descendants. There was a bill that was introduced, and so I'm going to try to pull in one of the organizers, Rafael,
Perfecto.
of that.
Tautaitai, Taigüey Deri, Rafael Feliciano Román, Borinquen Cuba, Cura Daca, Latón Quería, Kaoi Kala Daca Ihia. Hola, hello, honorable elders in the room. My name is Rafael Feliciano Román. I am of Taino descent from Cuba and Borinquen. My tribe is the Latón, Waterbury, Connecticut, Taino learning community here in the state, and I'm full of joy to be here. Thank you so much to CIPR for allowing us 5 minutes to speak about House Resolution 10 that is being proposed here in the state of Connecticut. I'm going to just share my screen with everyone so you all can see exactly what's going on here in the state of Connecticut. House Resolution 10, proposed by State Representative Geraldo Reyes and Rep. Rosario, co-sponsored by Blum, Gardner, and Sanchez, is a resolution that is seeking to recognize the culture and heritage of Taino descendants here in the state of Connecticut. This resolution is a beautiful resolution that just gives credence to the fact that in Connecticut and in New England, we have one of the largest percentages per capita and number of residents who hail from Borinquen. And in New England, if you look at that, also from the beautiful islands of Quisqueya, Cuba, Haiti, Jamaica, República Dominicana, and all others. And so this bill just recognizes the vital role and fabric of the Taino peoples that have contributed here historically, including wanting to give thanks to Hita Wahia, Cacique George Estevez, who lived in the state of Connecticut. Also, the fact that in our Taino learning community, we want to, again, give gracious gratitude to Cacique Roberto Mocaro Agüeba Namburo, who his Guajia Tainos, what our Taino learning community uses, and our elder that we work with, Miguel Saget Jr. of the Cane Indigenous Spiritual Circle. This resolution seeks to just recognize the cultural awareness and contributions to language revitalization efforts here in the state of Connecticut. Overall, this bill is currently been reported out favorably out of committee, and it is now in the Office of Legislative Research and Fiscal Analysis. We went and we spoke before the state committee, again, that has this resolution in front of it, and there's still opportunities for folks to testify. This is the current only public testimony that exists for this bill for other legislatures in the state of Connecticut to look at. As you can see, I'm right here listing support, Rep. Reyes. There's one independent researcher who opposes this. Again, this resolution does not seek land recognition. We want to think in our Taino learning community the fact that the Mashantucket and Pequot tribal nation has also funded our work. We are gracious for their $25,000 support to help us. Our learning community hosts Taino an Indigenous Remembrance Day on that second Monday of October. We do a candlelight vigil for the Taino community. We are bringing the National Smithsonian Museum Taino Vive exhibit in 2026 and are planning our first ever Taino Remembrance Day. Our ask is of you, any members who are out there, there is still time to submit written testimony in support of this resolution, in support of just recognizing the diaspora here in the state of Connecticut. I have it here on the screen. You just could look up Government, Administration, and Elections Committee written testimony submission form online. You could put your name, the organization you're a part of, hopefully you support it. The date of the hearing would be 3/21/2025 at 11 a.m. And you'll look for HR 10, Resolution Recognizing the Culture and Heritage of Taino Descendants in the State. You can upload a file, a letter, or you can type in your testimony. Again, I would be remiss if I didn't do a shameless plug. Our organization is hosting the first ever Northeast Taino Conference in 2026, a day of just acknowledging and recognizing the Taino Resurgent movement. We're planning for 2026, and hopefully we can have CIPR, present and do a panel on all of the amazing work you do around Indigenous law practices, and just truly connecting that. Again, just letting you guys know, we are bringing the National Smithsonian Museum's Caribbean Indigenous Resistance, Resistencia Taino Vive. It starts in December, and then we're bringing it back to Waterbury within New Haven, Yale Peabody. You can find our Taino Remembrance Day and Candlelight Vigil, the first, like I said, second Monday of the month. We are here to exist and help, and we're super grateful to all of you. And again, the Afro-Caribbean Cultural Center is at taino-nation.org. You can find out all about our amazing work, but we are here to encourage and ask everyone, please, if you can support House Resolution 10 with written testimony on why just recognizing the Taino diaspora is important. And lastly, I also want to give thanks to the Golden Pagusset Tribal Nation clan mother Sharon Piper for all of the support that they have given us here in the Naugatuck Valley region on the ancestral homes of the Golden Pagusset tribe here in the state of Connecticut. So I hand it back to you all, and thank you, Cajon.
All right, so what some of you may have remembered, the Supreme Court at a couple years ago overturned Roe v. Wade. And so, states that didn't already codify Roe v. Wade under state law, mostly southern states, were, it's still to this day, not necessarily safe places for freedom of choice for women. And so, Rhode Island, the state of Rhode Island, had already codified Roe v. Wade before it was overturned. I use that as an example because 2 sessions ago, when Halan v. Rakim was before the Supreme Court, there was a concern that they would overturn and undo the Indian Child Welfare Act. And fortunately, it was dismissed due to lack of standing. but there was a signal thrown in that opinion that said we never got to the merits of the case, which means somebody else bring a case where we can get to the merits. Now, practitioners, policymakers saw that signal and said, we need to motivate. So there was a push across all the states to do a survey of who and who doesn't have an Indian Child Welfare Act state law. Rhode Island did it. And, the Rhode Island ACLU reached out to us, and Stephen Brown, their executive director, along with Ray, drafted the Rhode Island version of the Indian Child Welfare. And the bill was supported and it died in committee, which means we got to be submitted and keep pushing. So that was something we introduced that had never been introduced before, and so we look forward to continuing to push that forward. The other another great story of land back in Tiverton, the Pequot Wampanoag Tribe Nation, with a grant from the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, was able to reclaim 40 acres of Tiverton. So Catholics have been doing a lot of land trust work for a while, so it was great to see. As we mentioned, we served as general counsel for the Poconokeets, who turned into Brown University, and so we'll hear much more from them. So,
All right, so another really important policy that's been put into place is the Maine bill expanding tribal rights to prosecute crimes. On April 22nd, Maine Governor signed LD 2007, which is an act regarding the criminal jurisdiction of tribal courts and to extend the time for the Penobscot Nation to certify its agreement to public law. The significance of this bill is that Maine tribes were previously the only ones in the United States without federal legislation that's intended to benefit the top nations, and now the Wabanaki nations can join the 570 other federally recognized tribes and exercise their inherent right to self-government, which has additional benefits such as the creation of thousands of jobs, the preservation of culture, and improved welfare for its members. As well as this, 5 new bills have been introduced in the Massachusetts legislature. They would benefit Indigenous peoples, and 5 different bills that would benefit Indigenous peoples are being considered for the 2025-2026 legislative session, and they address topics such as education and heritage. So some of the bills on education are the first, an act providing for the creation of permanent commission related to the education of American, Indian, and Alaska Native residents of the Commonwealth, which aims to improve educational outcomes and opportunities for Native youth. The significance of this is that studies have shown that Native Americans have some of the lowest educational outcomes, and this would improve their education, which is linked to lower rates of poverty and improved economic welfare and health. Another proposed bill on education is an act relative to celebrating teaching Native American cultures and history, which would require all public schools in the Commonwealth to ensure children in all schools learn and have an understanding of Native history, cultures, and current issues. The significance of this is that it deepens the quality of education and serves as an example for other public schools across the nations. This especially serves as an example because Massachusetts is the leader in public education in the United States. It also helps move away from harmful stereotypes that are commonly taught in schools. And the last proposed bill on education is an act prohibiting the use of Native American mascots in public schools in the Commonwealth, which would require all public schools in the Commonwealth to cease use of Native American mascots. This is important because the use of racist mascots creates psychological and social harm to Native students, as well as develops harmful stereotypes for non-Native students and can create bullying and other stigmatization. It would also denormalize culturally insensitive and inaccurate stereotypes that non-Native students are exposed to. And there are two proposed bills on Native American heritage. The first is an act establishing an Indigenous Peoples Day, which aims to replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day in Massachusetts general law. This would bring more awareness to the significant contributions that Indigenous people have made and celebrate their resilience, as well as allow Massachusetts to join the other 195 U.S. cities and 23 states that have already made the switch to Indigenous Peoples Day. The last bill on Native American heritage is an act to protect Native American heritage, which would ensure that funerary objects, sacred objects, etc., that are held in government, municipal, and nonprofit collections cannot be sold for profit. This would expand the protections of the Archaeological Resources Protection Act, or ARPA, and the Native American Grave Protection and Reparation Act that are already in place and impose some restrictions, but don't extend as far as to cover government and municipal nonprofit collections.
All right, so this just recently, Governor Daley recognized the Erie Pond Band, Wampanoag tribe, and we are fortunate enough to have Chief Melissa Golden Dragonfly able to speak to. So, do my tech thing.
Okay, perfect. Well, I can't hear myself, so that's a good thing. Wanima Taupin, Natasuis, Melissa Ferretti, New Tomas, Si Kwana Mako Pakwit, Ka Natai Patuxit, Natai Boranat. So what I've said to you in my traditional Wampanoag language is good morning. My name is, or I am called, Melissa Ferretti. I am from, or my genealogy and my roots are Herring Pond, Wampanoag. I was raised in Plymouth, Cedarville, and I now live in Bourne. So thank you for having me. This request came in a little late, but I'm really honored, as always, to speak on, the really important work that's happening in Indian country. Where to start, right? The recognition of the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe. Just briefly, so the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe, for those who do not know who we are one of few remaining Wampanoag tribes that still reside on our traditional homeland, much of our population. We are located, of course, in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Our traditional meeting house, built in from an 1838 petition that we still have care and custody of today, still sits pretty on our meeting house lot on the banks of Great Herring Pond. So we worked real hard on this executive order. We feel that it's more a reaffirmation, right? We've never ceased to exist. We've always been a very autonomous and quiet community, written in traditional and in historical records that way. But when my leadership began, I'm on my fourth term as tribal chair, and very quickly on, I saw our community at risk. And what's really critical, and what I saw very quickly, is, even in Indian country, it can be very difficult, and it's really hard to be trusted in a lot of settings as a state recognized tribe. And you often do not get the respect that you deserve simply because you haven't had or been afforded the opportunity or the resources to gain any kind of formal recognition from the either state, federal government, whatever it might be. So, part of my work ongoing was not only to help my very small community grow and prosper, and to get the respect and dignity that we so deserve. Growing up, raised by an elder of my tribe in Cedarville, in Plymouth, on my traditional homelands, probably being the only child in the district who had a herring shed in their backyard, it was really important to me to do this work. My only regret is that I did not start it about 30 years ago, because I would hopefully be much further along. But seems for us, this recognition, it was a very small step, but a very huge and very large step at the same time, to really get that dignity and get that recognition that we've been waiting for. So the work began, I guess I'll start there. Obviously, decades and hundreds of years ago, we've been here. But what happened is Herring Pond, and this really speaks to our organizers here today who are working to support tribal communities with these legal issues. Herring Pond was one of those communities at risk with little to no help, no support, no resources at all. We did this on our own. We were very fortunate that over my time, I was working very hard to get our records together and in one place. Our records date back to the 17th century, and these documents are very well written through history. It was just a matter of getting that work together so that we could get it to the governor's office on her desk and in for her to review. So we worked very hard, and we were very fortunate to have 2 tribal citizens that had not yet been enrolled that did, and they were legal counsel. And what it really took was just a little bit of support for myself as leadership and a chair and my council to help get all of these documents together so that we could present them in a robust way to the governor's office. And that is what we did. We took what the research that I had been doing for the last 12 years, along with some others in the community that donated some of their documents. We put the timeline together from 1600 through today, and it was a lot of work. But we got it up to the governor's office. It was reviewed by her council. We worked very diligently with her council. We met with them. We met with council. And of course, we had support from our sister tribes, the federally recognized tribes. And so here we are. We have this executive order now, and we are going to hold, these folks in the Commonwealth, accountable to consult with the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe. As I said, we understand federal recognition is the end game because we need to be able to sustain ourselves. And we're working toward that. And we're also working toward a real legislative process in Massachusetts, right? This executive order is not legislation. So that's another big issue that we need to work on in the Commonwealth to make that happen for the tribes who are deserving, who have been here fighting this battle and trying to just barely sustain themselves with very small things for their tribal community and their elders. I guess another really important effort that we should talk about that I heard my friend speak of prior to me getting on is land back. The Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe did also in 2019 have a 6-acre parcel returned to our tribe through the town of Plymouth. The first time America's hometown has ever given back Indian land. And this land did actually contain a burial ground with 8 of our descendants. 8 graves, 7 marked, and we think there's a lot more graves up there on that knoll that we have yet to discover. Again, limited resources, limited support, no legal help. Here we are doing this work pretty much largely on our own. But we did it, right? We got the recognition, even without, we had worked very hard. We've contacted organizations like NARF, all of the larger legal supporters for tribal communities. And we were told, we either received no reply at all, or we were told no. So it was a matter of talking to one of the commissioners on Indian Affairs at one time when I first started this work. And I was sort of stomping my feet, complaining that, why aren't we here? Why don't we have this? Why weren't we put in that? Why weren't we included? And he looked at me and said, nobody's going to give it to you. You have to get out, do the work, and you have to go and get it. And that's what we did. So it just really proves that a small community with very few people and very few support can still get it done. But organizations like you all that are supporting tribal communities, I applaud you, because we struggled for decades to just get anyone to listen. But we managed and we did it. So I'm proud of that. Another really important thing before I end, I know we only have a few minutes. I don't want to go over. I know you have a busy day. We also, Herring Pond, also recently took a really big step, and we also created a land trust. Our articles of organization were approved by the state 4 days ago or a few days ago, and our EIN was issued yesterday. So we too are taking that big step to secure land and to give people people who want to donate land, the comfort knowing that they're giving it to us so that we can conserve it and care for it and steward it properly. So I think that might be all I need to offer today, because I know we're limited on time, and I hope I covered enough, and I hope that was something useful for your discussion today. So thank you for having me.
So another significant development in legislation world is in 2024, the Connecticut governor signed a bill changing the paid family and medical leave insurance law, as well as the family violence leave law. This grants statewide paid leave to employees of Connecticut's federally recognized tribe, as well as extends paid leave to sexual assault victims. The significance of this is that the bill will benefit many women and racial and ethnic minority groups who are more likely to be victims of sexual assault, as well as benefit the employees of tribe-owned businesses who are ensured the ability to gain access to paid family medical leave insurance funds by entering into a memorandum of understanding. And the last key development is the City of Boston now recognizes a National Mourning Day. In November of 2024, the Boston City Council passed a resolution that officially recognizes November 28th as National Day of Mourning. By observing National Mourning Day, it confronts the reality of English colonists' invasions of the Wampanoag homelands, as well as the violence and oppression that they went through.
All right, give a round of applause for Curtis. This question is doing a spring break assignment at a conference in Minnesota. So that is our attempt to try to wrap our arms around, and even in the attempt, we obviously didn't catch up with it. It's great to hear from Chairman Melissa about the acres land data as well. So and so we hope to kind of continue this practice, lift up these efforts around the region. And we've done enough yapping this morning, so I see lunch is being